Welcome, welcome, welcome. Almost forgot how to unmute myself. Welcome to In the Loop, Lupus Live with Lupus in Color. Lupus in Color is here to educate, inspire, encourage, and empower lupus warriors worldwide. Today we have a guest on. Her name is Sagree Naicker, and we're just going to wait for her to come on so that we can start our discussion and begin sharing her story. Thank you, everyone, for coming in. Hello, Coco Baby Jackson. I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for everybody tuning in. This is an early one because our guest speaker is out of South Africa. So we have, a wide time disparity that we have between us. So we're just waiting for our speaker to come on. And in the meantime, and in between time, let me tell you about a little bit about In the Loop with Lupus in Color. Basically, we tell stories to empower the lupus warrior and to help other lupus warriors understand that they are not alone. So our goal is to share stories of overcoming and just becoming more in spite of lupus. And that is the purpose of In the Loop Lupus Live. So I wanted to make sure that I explained that. As usual, whatever you hear from us here is basically someone's story, or sometimes we'll do little activities with doctors. But I want you to make sure that you understand that everything that we say here is of our opinion, or it's someone's story. If anything you hear here that you want to try, make sure that you're checking with your doctor first. But I see that our guest has logged on, so I am not going to hinder the time any longer. I'm going to bring her on up to the stage, and then we will get started. Hi there.
Hi.
How are you feeling?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am good. Let me see if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Is it Sagree or Sagree?
Sagree.
Sagree. Okay, I was good.
Yes.
I'm good. It's so nice to finally meet you. I know you had some surgery and stuff, and I'm so glad that you're feeling so much better. Your sister was letting me know all about you, and I was praying for you and making sure that you were
Oh, thank you
okay.
so much. Yes, I'm much better, thank you.
Awesome. I'm so happy to
Yes.
meet you. And just to let everybody know, Sagree is from South Africa, correct?
Yes.
And what time is it right now in South Africa?
It's 6 p.m. in Cape
Okay,
Town, South Africa.
okay, so
Yes.
you guys are settling in for the evening, getting ready to have some dinner.
Yes.
I
Yes. Yes.
understand. I understand. So let's get right to it. I don't want to keep up too much of your time. And I'm so excited that your sister reached out so that we can talk to you. I love speaking to lupus warriors all across the world. It makes my heart happy to see
Yes.
lupus warriors overcoming and just doing things that are so positive for themselves. So start by telling us when you were diagnosed with lupus and what led to your diagnosis.
Okay. I started having symptoms around 2015, mid 2015, but I couldn't pin exactly what was wrong. So I was going to doctors and really so baffled by my symptoms. And I went to many doctors until a doctor said to me, it could be possible that I'm in depression.
Mm.
But I knew that there was something deeper that was wrong with me. I was having symptoms of muscle and joint pains, fatigue, chronic fatigue, low grade fever, insomnia, stiffness of my muscles and joints. So I knew that it was not depression, it was deeper than that. Eventually, I got to see a rheumatologist. I was nursing at the time.
Okay.
So one of my colleagues said to me, "Why don't you see a rheumatologist? Because it sounds like you need to see one."
Right.
So I saw a rheumatologist, and after a clinical examination and some tests, she diagnosed me with rheumatoid arthritis
Mhm.
in 2016. After a while, we went on medication, and we know that there's no cure for autoimmune diseases. Tried some medication, and I never went into remission.
Mm.
Eventually, my symptoms started to get worse, and I was hospitalized for about 2 weeks until my rheumatologist said, why don't we test for lupus?
Right.
Because there is a possibility you may have had it for a few years, but we haven't tested for it. And it is said that if you have autoimmune diseases, it is possible that you can have more than one.
Right.
So I was in hospital, and I was having symptoms of hair loss.
Okay.
I actually lost all of my hair, so I was
Mm.
completely bald. I had mouth lesions, skin lesions, mouth ulcers. I used to suffer from sensitivity to the sun.
Right.
If I'm in the
Mhm.
sun for too long, then I feel like I get kind of an erythematous patch that was
Okay.
really painful, and
Mhm.
some skin lesions as well. And so we tested for lupus, and the test was positive
Okay.
in
Okay.
2019.
Okay. So it's been an official diagnosis. It took you about what, 2 or 3 years just to get a
Yes,
diagnosis.
yes,
Yeah. And well, I'm glad that you had the wherewithal to just go beyond them telling you that you were depressed.
yes,
Because
yes,
it seems like that's the main thing that they tell us. If they don't
yes.
understand what's going on in our body.
Yeah, I feel like people dismiss what they do not understand. It's so much
Absolutely.
simpler to dismiss somebody than to search deeper for answers.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of people probably watching us now, walking around thinking that it's all in their head when it's actually very real.
Absolutely. That's a very good point because that's very true. Because doctors have
Yeah.
told us it's not real, it's all in your head. Or someone in our family has told us that. Absolutely. That's a very good point. Now, what type of lupus did they diagnose you with?
They diagnosed me with systemic lupus erythematosus, commonly known as SLE.
Hmm.
And this type of lupus affects your systems. It has
Hmm.
organ involvement. It involves every organ: the heart, the brain, the skin, the lungs, the kidneys, the blood vessels. And over time, I now had lupus and rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah.
But because I was on long term cortisone,
Hmm.
I was on oral cortisone, high doses. And
Hmm.
then when I was hospitalized to suppress the inflammation, they would give me intravenous cortisone, which
Wow. Okay.
eventually caused me to end up with comorbidities. I ended
Mm.
up being a type 2 diabetic, hypertensive, and
Yep.
struggle with asthma as well. And
Wow.
so now I have kidney disease as
Wow.
well.
Wow.
So I had my first kidney biopsy in 2019,
Hmm.
2020. 6 weeks ago, I had my second kidney biopsy as well. And
Wow.
so, yeah, that's where I'm at now.
Yeah, it's kind of scary though because I think when we're first diagnosed, we look to the medicines to help us, and although
Mhm.
they might help one thing, they cause other issues.
Yes, yeah.
I like you.
I
I'm the type.
found,
Go ahead.
sorry, I found what it does is mainly with the cortisone, as many other autoimmune sufferers would bear witness, that it gives us a temporary relief,
Right.
but it has long-term side effects.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And long-term side effects that can turn into major diseases
Yes.
added on to what you're dealing with as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
When you first found out you had lupus, what did you think? What were you relieved? I know you were scared, but after waiting for 3 years to get a full diagnosis, what did you feel like?
To be honest with you, I was so devastated because I actually, for years, believed that my diagnosis was rheumatoid arthritis. It felt very much like an arthritic type of pain.
Right.
But as it got worse over time, I knew something deeper was wrong. I just didn't understand it. And I think for me, when doctor approached me in hospital and said, let's test for lupus, I was so sick at that time. I didn't pay much attention to what she was actually saying. And to be honest with you, I didn't give it much thought. I honestly thought that the results would be negative.
Right.
When it turned out to be positive, and when she came to me in hospital to give me the news, I think the only thing that stuck with me was no cure.
Right.
Um,
Right.
for me, that was the most frightening thing
Right.
to have heard. Um, and I found at that time I was so discouraged, I was so despondent, I was so despaired because I was lying in hospital for 2 weeks. And remember, I'm sitting there and I nurse at that hospital. I'm surrounded by my colleagues. I'm bald and I'm going through all of the emotional roller coasters.
Right.
And all I want to do is get out of bed. And now I find out that I have a life altering illness.
Yeah.
I know that it's never going to be the same again. So I
Right.
was really devastated. And, at that moment, I felt my entire life just coming to a grinding halt. But I
Right.
had to muster up the courage inside of me because I understand that, what, when our life comes, when our world stops,
Right.
the world goes on.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean,
Mm,
that's so relatable,
mhm.
when you're diagnosed and you just it's almost like you see your life flash before your eyes. It's like,
Mm.
how am I going to get back to my normal, so to speak, right?
Yes, yes, definitely.
It's really difficult. I'm happy
Mhm.
that you are able to at least voice that, because I think a lot of times we tend to hold that in a little bit,
Yes,
and don't
definitely.
let people know this was a difficult time.
It is very difficult.
Yeah.
Um, you're confused, and then on the exterior, besides having lost your hair, otherwise you look perfectly well.
Right.
And now you're telling people you can't get out of bed. It becomes such an internal struggle, a
Hmm.
frustration, where you get to the point where you really want to explain yourself,
Right.
but you look at the facial expressions and you see that people don't really understand what you're saying because what you're saying doesn't even make sense to you, the
Right.
sufferer.
Right.
So
Right.
how can it make sense to the recipient? And
Right.
that's what I struggled with for a long time.
Yeah. You're just
Mm.
trying to educate yourself and understand what's going
Mhm.
on. Not even just educate yourself about lupus, but educate yourself about how it's affecting your body.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's so difficult. And that leads me to my next question. Like, how do you, because I mean, even though you've been diagnosed for some time, how do you explain lupus to those who don't really understand it?
Mm. That is the most difficult thing to do.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, you know, um, Most of the time, if I find someone that's really interested in finding out what this is about, then I would tell them that it is an autoimmune disease.
Right.
And to make it really simple, I would say that it's basically where your immune system attacks itself.
Hmm.
In a normal immune system, your immunity would attack, your immune system would attack viruses and bacteria. But with us, our immune system fights itself. So
Right.
it's a constant war within that's going on, even when it doesn't manifest externally. It's
Yeah.
going on inside of us. And I think that is, I just tell them, most of the time, lupus is a cruel mystery.
Yes.
It
Yes.
is an invisible torture.
Mm.
And I just think that, what, sometimes we just, as lupus sufferers,
Hmm.
we make lupus look easy.
Right.
And I don't know if that can be a blessing or a curse
Right.
because you're constantly trying to be strong,
Right.
and sometimes your strength is misinterpreted.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you just hit so many important points.
Hmm.
The whole just being the torture, and
Yeah,
then, just showing that strong mask, that face, that, because we don't want people to see us in our weakness. So
never,
people
never.
often look at us and it's like, you don't look sick. You're always running around, you're writing books,
Yes.
you're doing this, you're doing that. And you make it
Yes.
look real easy. You must be good.
Uh-huh. Yes,
What do you
definitely.
say to
Yeah.
people when they start saying stuff like that to you, though?
You
If
know,
you say anything at all.
um, I don't know. I think that's just a moment where you can just roll your eyes at somebody. And I tend to do that quite often, by the way. But,
Right.
in the beginning, it was really difficult
Mhm.
because people will often say, because they know you've been in hospital and now you're out and about, oh, but you look so good. That
Right.
would be the first statement. And I'm like, oh, goodness, you really don't want to know what's going on inside. And I
Right.
think for a long time, that was a major frustration for me. Like,
Mhm.
what do I need to do to prove to somebody how sick I am?
Right. Right.
And,
Like, do I need to
also,
walk around with my body looking
yes,
bad? What does sick look like?
yes, because not all disabilities are visible.
Absolutely.
you know
Absolutely.
so you know what, I just found that that would be a frustration to explain to somebody how I really feel. And
Mhm.
after a while I started to make peace with that
Right.
um, if I know that that's good enough and
Right.
I'm just showing up for life, that's
Right.
all.
Right. Just showing up for life.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And you can't live for anybody else but yourself, right?
Absolutely,
That's
yes,
that's a
it's your
that's such
fight.
a
Yeah.
that's a pertinent statement. That is really a strong statement because I think that
Yes.
we tend to put on the mask, like you said,
Mhm.
and want to make sure that everybody knows that we're okay and we're not really fine. Thank goodness we don't look like what our body's putting us through, right?
Yes, I often say I don't look like what I feel.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because if you did, they probably run away from you, right?
Yes,
They run away screaming,
absolutely.
no.
No way.
They
Yeah,
would they wouldn't
definitely.
even want to look at you anymore.
I don't think so. I
Yeah,
really don't think so.
it's crazy how
Yeah.
people misinterpret, the way that
Yeah.
we present ourselves, and we just trying to present ourselves as as nicely as we can, so you don't see that part of it.
Yes. And I would, also understand from their perspective what that
Absolutely.
must be like. Because I suppose if it were the other way around, I will also look at them and wonder, what are you talking about? Because you must understand, I was a nurse for a long time.
Right,
And
right,
I went on to disability when I was diagnosed with lupus and when it became complicated. But for a long time, I saw lupus patients in hospital, and I myself would question, is this doesn't make sense.
right,
This doesn't seem real.
right.
Until I was the one sitting with lupus, and I was like,
Mm.
wow, yeah,
It's real, right?
yeah,
Yeah, sometimes,
there's no
unfortunately,
doubt.
sometimes it takes people to be in the situation to actually really understand it.
Absolutely,
I can
yes,
remember saying as a young girl, "Oh, I would never take those pills. Why would I take
yes,
pills? What do I need? I'm young and I'm vibrant."
uh-huh.
Here I am chugging them down.
Yes, yeah, and lots,
Right, right, and not even complaining. I'm not even going to complain
yeah,
about it.
yes,
What is
yeah.
your biggest support system?
My biggest support system, because I found that lupus can sometimes be quite a lonely journey.
Yeah,
And I say that because what I've realized and what I've come to realize with lupus is that there are some journeys that you take alone.
right,
So, in as much as you are loved, you have a huge support system, you have a great family and friends. But that I was often reminded of that actually recently when I was in hospital during isolation,
hmm,
during lockdown. And the hospitalizations I had, where there were limited visitors and I couldn't have my family and friends around me.
right,
And when I had to have emergency surgery and emergency hospitalizations, and my family had to drop me off at the reception of the hospital, and walking in there alone, for me was the scariest thing. And you know what? In that moment, that is where I actually, you know, really found hope and strength in my
mhm.
faith
There you
in
go.
God, because I understood that there were a lot of times that He actually bailed me out.
Yeah,
A lot of moments where I was really sick and absolutely in a mess, where He was the only one that could actually pluck me out of that situation. And He did. He showed up for me in all of those moments. Otherwise, I'm really blessed to have an amazing family. a
Right.
support structure. I have a great husband, great kids who understand by now what's going on, and they're
Right.
really superb. I cannot ask for a better family. My mom, my dad, my sisters. I have friends and family that pray me through
Right.
hospitalizations, and well, they just choose to stick with me through it all. I don't know if they don't have a choice.
I don't think you give them a choice. As sweet as you are, they can't turn their back on you.
Yeah, they've been amazing. They've been amazing because they've tried to understand what's going on. They've done their research. They know what I mean when I say that today's not a good day. So we kind of have our code language, but they've also been super, super supportive.
That's
And
so
I'm really
that's
blessed with that.
and
Yeah.
that's so important. That's so important. I love how you incorporate your faith and how you understand that, like you said, sometimes you do have to walk alone. But even when you're walking alone, you have your faith with you and you know that there's something larger than you that's going to keep you and keep you safe.
Definitely.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. What are your most successful strategies to cope with pain?
In the beginning, I used to be, shouldn't be a very nice person to be around, actually.
Oh, okay.
If I
Yeah.
had pain, then I would be very agitated, very frustrated. I didn't know how to deal with it myself. I didn't understand what was going on. It was very confusing. After a while, I understood that being alone was kind of a coping mechanism for me,
Mhm.
because when you are alone, you kind of give yourself time to make sense of what's going on. You find ways in, for example, I would listen to podcasts. I will come on to support groups like this,
Mhm.
and just the hope and just to see that there is actually a lupus world out there,
Yeah.
all the way in America, that there
Right.
are thousands of people that are going through exactly what I'm going through.
Right.
It kind of gives you this solace. It makes you feel at peace that you're not the only one that's going through this. And sometimes what you are going through that doesn't make sense, you would find on this platform that there are people that are discussing exactly what you're feeling at that moment. So it
Mhm.
kind of eases the pain a bit in that sense.
Absolutely.
And obviously you have your pain relief, your analgesia that you take. In
Mhm.
recent times, that's been a little bit of a challenge with the kidney disease that is now playing up.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, I'm limited in that sense. I cannot take what I usually take. So I'm trying to cope with pain where I rest as much as I can.
Right.
Previously, I wouldn't do that. I would push past the pain.
Right.
Nowadays, I want to stop and just take inventory and say, you know what, enough is enough. It's time to
Whew.
just sit, just chill, which
Yeah.
is really difficult for me to do.
I can
Um,
imagine.
yes. I think, when we think of lupus and we really pin it down to it being a physical type of pain,
Mhm.
and we forget that it's very much psychological and emotional as well.
Yes. Yes.
For me, it's very painful when I think of what I lost in the journey with lupus. I
Right.
lost a lot in the journey. I just qualified as a sister. I just, God just made my dream possible to work in the ICU. Everything was going fantastic. And
Right.
then suddenly, my entire world was flipped upside down. Many times I find myself grieving over that loss.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when we think of grief, we often pin it down to the loss of a loved one. But grief manifests in many other ways.
Yeah.
For me, it was a loss of a career. It was being placed on disability at the age of 40. It was absolutely not in my plans.
Right.
And that for me was really the hardest thing to deal with. I find that when I'm in pain, it often takes me back to what I lost.
Right.
And to
Oh.
some extent, I feel a bit angry, a bit upset,
Mhm. Absolutely.
because that it's because of lupus that I am now in the situation that I'm in.
Yeah.
And then obviously, I get back to the point where I really need to pray. I really
Right.
need to be alone because I understand that others are not to blame for what I am
Mhm.
going through.
Right.
So I
Right.
prefer in that moment to just be alone, to just draw strength from God, because that is, it's really the only way sometimes to survive the pain. And
Right.
that is why I say, what, the frustration of lupus is so deep, it's so intense, and it's so misunderstood.
Yeah.
And it's so sad, because when we think about it, we often just think, what must this person be going through physically, if you do understand lupus? But
Mm-hmm.
we never really look at the person holistically, where we look at a person and think, what must she be going through sitting at home at this age, when she had so many plans,
Mm-hmm.
so many dreams, and now you're stuck in this body
Right.
that doesn't want to
Cooperate.
cooperate with your mind, that
Right.
full of abilities and full of dreams and full of aspirations. So it
Mm-hmm.
can become a very much of a psychological and emotional pain as well that you deal with. So one can become depressed, anxious, and that's some of the reasons why we feel the way we do sometimes. And you know what? I just think, we show up every day for life. We show up for our families. We show up for functions or whatever it is we need to do, just to accomplish and just to be somebody and just to live a full life. But you know what? I found that we show up, but in essence, we are just a struggle wrapped in strength.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
I
that's
love that
exactly. Yeah.
statement.
Mm.
I'm
And
you
I
just
just felt
you just
like,
gave me goosebumps. Oh my goodness. I love
I
that.
felt like it becomes an emotional challenge, an emotional fight, and a psychological fight, because you make all of these plans for yourself, and then you find yourself here.
Right.
And a couple of years ago, I had a friend of mine that visited me in hospital, and he asked me, why are you so deep in thought? And I
Mm.
said to him, I'm sitting here and I'm just thinking, I was actually not supposed to be a patient. I'm supposed to be a nurse.
Right.
And
Right.
I am not taking this too well. And he said something really profound to me that I would like to share with you. And he said to me, sometimes God folds his arms and he laughs at the plans we make.
Mm. That's the truth.
We make so many plans for our lives, but when we reach a fork in the road, it's so
Right.
difficult to pick up from there and to find a new purpose in life and to continue.
Whew. That that's so true because you know what, we make so many plans and we
Mhm.
depend on certain things to, I guess, make us who we are. You know, we
Yes.
depend on our jobs, we depend on our statuses, you know what I
Mhm.
mean, to
Yes,
try
absolutely.
and just be somebody like you
Yes.
stated
Hmm.
in the world. And just, we have these goals, these grandiose things, and then sometimes
Hmm.
things like lupus are just put in your path where, look, you might have to just adjust.
Yes.
Nobody said you had to stop. You
Hmm.
might just have to adjust and maybe
Yes.
get some different goals
Hmm.
in your head. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
Definitely.
just do some different things.
Hmm.
I love everything that you did, the whole struggle and strength and what he stated to you. He kind of just folds his arms and just laughs because, we don't know what's in store for us.
No.
Only our higher power knows that.
Yes.
And whether you
Absolutely.
believe in God or Allah, whoever you believe in,
Absolutely. Yes.
they have the plan already laid out for us. We just have to
Hmm.
take the right path
Yes.
because you could be sitting depressed and angry
Yeah.
and that's not to say that as you're doing it, that doesn't happen because
Hmm.
it does. I think we go through a whole grieving process the whole time that we're dealing with lupus. We just go through it at different periods, you
Hmm.
know, and we pick up from where we left off, like you said,
Yes.
that pain starts that psychological problem and, just makes us really think about what's going on. I find that all lupus warriors are like these grand thinkers.
Yes.
And it's because we
Yes.
don't have anything but time
To
to
think.
think.
And you know what? Um, I that is why I say, we think so much, because I know my mind is really busy.
Right,
I hate to switch off sometimes, and even when I'm in hospital, I don't want to be sedated, because I want
right,
to be in control of my body, of my mind, and So I know I have a busy mind, but you know, that brings me back to the point that I always reiterate, the power of a sound mind.
Mm.
I really think as lupus sufferers, we don't always win the battle in the physical sense, but
Right.
mentally, if we can win the battle in our mind,
Mm.
that will cause us to, I wouldn't say win the battle in our physical sense, but we do much better. Because
Absolutely.
I always believe that. I believe that when I was a nurse, I believe that as a patient, not always, but I had to remind myself many times, listen, if you get your mind right, then your
Your
body will
body will
correspond.
follow.
Your body will, yes, will cooperate. Because many times we get depressed, we get anxious, we hear all of this negative news. We hear that there's no cure. We hear that there's, with us with medication, we always we are on disease modifying anti-rheumatic drugs. So
Mm.
there's no cure, but we sometimes go through a process of elimination. You know, I went through that where I just continued, they continued changing medication, and it's not their fault because there's no cure. They're just trying to help you out.
Right.
But if you don't find that inner strength, that gut strength, you really struggle more with lupus. It's not just doesn't become just a physical struggle. It
Right.
becomes a mental struggle as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It can be so difficult. It can be so
Mhm.
difficult. And I think a lot of people really miss the part of the mental portion. And then when you couple that with the spiritual portion, it
Mhm.
all comes together.
Yes,
You have to have it all in balance. And it's hard to do that in pain, but
very
it's
difficult.
so important to
Yes,
do because you will drive yourself crazy.
yes,
You will drive yourself crazy. Now the lupus medications that you're on, I know that you just had surgery and everything like that. Do they stop you from doing some of the things that you need to do? Do they stop your life at all? Interfere with any type of life activities?
yes, definitely, definitely. There's some medication that I took that caused me to the side effects were shortness of breath.
Mm,
That would mean now if I needed to go out, I cannot walk long distances, or if I got to a shopping mall, then we would have to park closer. So just so that I don't tire easily, I found a sensitivity to sunlight,
hmm.
being out in the sun, which is great, which is always great, but for us it can be really damaging to the skin. I found I get absolutely fatigued if I'm out in the sun very quickly. And oftentimes, people can wonder, but you were just out for about an hour. How can you be tired so quickly? But
Right.
that's exactly what happens. These things have an effect on us. I found that pain and certain medications would affect your life socially. It
Right.
affected my life socially because with some of the side effects, the common thing that we struggle with is digestive issues.
Hmm.
If
Yep.
you go out, you don't have that comfort of being at home, so
Right.
there's a lot of things you're dealing with that you don't often discuss.
Right.
I found like household chores that become really tiring to do. So then you need to ask for help. And for me, that was really always difficult to do. And
Right.
I felt the medication would often make me feel exhausted,
Mm.
tired, where I need to rest more. And
Yeah.
I'm just, just out of it. I don't have the energy to do
Right.
anything. So yeah.
Yeah. It becomes a chore just to try and stay well
Mm.
in between flares with taking the different medications. It's like
Yes,
it's such a
definitely.
balance. And it's like I feel like sometimes lupus warriors are like magicians. We
Yes.
lupus makes us pull stuff out of a hat just to live and thrive beyond lupus. I
Yes.
always I always call lupus a clown. She's got clown activities, and that's fine because I'm the great magician with the wand, and I'll take care of
Yes.
it, as best as I
Yeah.
can. How do you handle the physical demands that lupus may bring?
Like I said, I struggled a lot, because I'm really independent. I like getting things done on my own, and I like working fast. So I never want to ask for something and wait for it.
Right.
because then I start to get very irritated. And over time, I had to learn that I needed help. I
Yeah.
needed people to help me, and it was okay to ask for help. Now I'm much better with that, and I'm much more patient because I understand that others are busy too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I use a lot of equipment, appliances that would make life easier.
Hmm.
I try to keep things, that are more accessible, reachable for me, not just because I'm short, but because standing on the edge of my toes are really difficult these days.
Yeah.
Um, I try not to carry heavy items. I buy stuff that would be easier to open up because nowadays, opening a jar and opening a can, simple tasks like that are a mission in
Yeah.
its own. I try to get someone to drive me around if I'm too tired to do so or if I'm unable to. So lupus is really difficult to explain in that sense because really again, it brings us to the point where we look so normal, but we
Right.
cannot do these tasks. We are so limited in what we can do. And
Right.
so you just have to try and adapt to making life easier for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is so true. What have you learned about yourself? You've said so much, and I have a feeling I know what you're gonna say. But what have you learned about yourself since you've had lupus?
I've learned that I'm really strong-willed. You know,
Mm.
if I set my mind on doing something, I get it done. I make sure it's completed, it is finished, and I'm a no excuses person. So I try to push past all of the limits, all of the barriers, all of
Mhm.
the limitations, and get what I need to get done.
Right.
That's what I do, and I found that I am an adaptable person
Hmm.
because I've found a new purpose beyond what I was doing before.
Right.
So it's like you said, we reach a fork in the road, but what now? I always say it's either going to make you better or better. You
Yeah.
decide. You
Yeah.
know, um, only you can pick yourself up from where you are at,
Right.
because life throws you a lot of curveballs, and you just got to learn to kind of make new choices
Right.
based on where you are at this moment. And I'm so much now, I'm more grounded and rooted in my faith. I just resolved in my mind that regardless of what I lose in this journey,
Right.
that I'm keeping my faith. That's what
Right.
I'm keeping. And I'm still a work in progress, still under construction in many ways.
Absolutely.
And I don't always get it right, but I continue to try every day. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're doing it. I think you're doing it. And that's all you can ask of yourself. So I think sometimes we're kind of hard on ourselves,
Yes.
and we have to be patient with ourselves and patient with our bodies and with our mind and with our spirits, and just learn to love more on ourselves. And like you
Yes.
said, everything is a work in progress.
Absolutely.
So I know that you are an author and you have a new book called The Show Must Go On, correct?
Yes.
Tell us about the book. Let me see the cover. I'm going to order mine tonight. And tell us a little bit about your book. The
Oh,
Show Must Go
must
On. I
go
love the
on.
cover of it.
Thank you. Yes, The Show Must Go On is it's a book that I wrote, so it's amazing.
Right. I love it.
When you say I'm an author, I'm still getting used to that. My husband often reminds me to say that. I'm still getting used to that because I said in previous interviews, and I'm saying it again, it was never my dream to be an author.
Right.
It's really a gift that God skilled me to write. It was never something I envisioned for me. And like I said, you know what? God laughs at the plans we make.
Hmm.
I had my heart set on nursing, but now I'm writing a book and finished writing a book. So the show must go on is a no holds barred perspective on a daily life with lupus.
Wow.
It's real, it's authentic, it's full of truth. It's not a pretty book. It's a very emotional book because I write exactly as the chapters are unfolding in my life in real time. This is exactly what's happening in my life. In my book, I incorporated my family as well because I thought that was really vital. It's vital for other lupus sufferers, for their families to get some insight. I asked my family, my husband, my son, and my daughter, to basically write about what I was like before lupus and what am I like now.
Wow.
How
Wow.
did they have to adjust to my life now?
Hmm.
Because it's not just you that suffers, it's your entire family that suffers.
Yeah.
And you kind of process this together. So they are involved in certain chapters in the book where they actually come in and give their overview of what they feel lupus is like, what how it has disrupted our lives
Hmm. Hmm.
and
Wow.
how we had to adjust around it. So you know what? I was sitting in my bed one day, crippled from lupus,
Hmm.
and I sat there and everyone was gone to work and university and school. And I was just asking God, what do I do now? I
Hmm.
cannot nurse anymore. Physically, I cannot do that. But I have a pen, I have a page, and I have a sound mind.
Hmm.
And God said, write about your story, you
Right.
know.
Right.
And it started off just journaling, just writing down important dates and events of what had happened, what had taken place so far in my life with lupus. And eventually, my sister said, you know what, this can be a book. And that
Mm.
was a seed that was planted then and there. And, God gave me the go ahead.
Right.
It just worked out perfectly. I wasn't sure how I was going to write, what I was going to write.
Right.
I didn't know, I'm entering this whole new world of writing that's totally unfamiliar to me, but I know that life begins at the end of your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
my life was just beginning with this whole new venture, which
Yeah.
was actually it was great because I found, we had a lot of obstacles along the way. I had a lot of hospitalizations, a lot
Hmm.
of setbacks, a lot of moments where I didn't want to write because I thought, why am I writing in the first place?
Right. Right.
I don't understand.
Right.
And then we had lockdown as well due to the
Hmm.
COVID pandemic. But I found that I had this burning desire in me to keep on writing.
Yeah.
And every time I would say, God, what should I write now? And He would always give me something to write about. And it
Awesome.
turned out to be an absolutely amazing book that has so far impacted so many lives. You
Yeah.
know, um, when I started, when God gave me the idea to write, I did not
Hmm.
have the finances to write. I didn't have a budget to publish a book. So I told you when I set a goal, I just go crazy. And then I thought, the only limitations I place on myself is that I cannot do something. But if I can try, why not? So
Yeah.
I edited the book on my own. I proofread the book. I published it. I printed it. And now you have this book in front of you that
Awesome.
just shows that, you know what, nothing, absolutely nothing is impossible with God.
Absolutely.
Um, if you
Absolutely.
resolve in your mind that my life doesn't stop here because of
Right.
lupus,
Right.
yes, lupus is a diagnosis, but it shouldn't control your life. You
Right.
have control of your life. You are still
Awesome.
behind the steering wheel, you are still driving this vehicle of life. And I just feel you can make it work. You
Right.
can go against all odds and make life work for you. And for me, I just want to live out my purpose in life. I just want to live every day maxed out. Um, I just,
Absolutely.
I always say I'll sleep when I die.
Right. Right. Right.
And you
I
know what?
understand that.
Um, just to dream the impossible because you know what? It's possible with God. I'm here on this platform with you today. Uh, this is impossible actually because this was a platform I used to watch when I was first diagnosed, never thinking for once that one day I will be on this platform
Right.
encouraging other lupus sufferers. And
Wow.
more than that, being an author, writing a book, uh, that's still insane to me. So I really think, you know what,
It's
it's,
happening. It's happening.
that is why when I talk about it, I really don't, I'm so humbled by it because I know that really, it's just something that God has gifted me to do, and I'm so glad. I cannot nurse physically at a patient's bedside, but I can work on a patient's psychological being. I
Absolutely.
can teach them how to find power in their mind, and that is what the show must go on does. When
Awesome.
you read it, it gives you that desire to be your best self
Right.
still, beyond lupus, to
Right.
live beyond lupus.
Right.
So whatever that may be, I just feel we
Right.
all have a cross to bear.
Hmm.
Maybe not lupus, maybe
Right.
different things, and that's
Right.
fine. But what matters is that you don't give up the fight, whatever
Mm.
it is. And
Wow.
and every day you live, you just live your best life. And
Yes.
that's basically what I'm doing now.
I
Just
love
trying to
it.
live my best life.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait to get my book. I can't wait. Tell me, where can anybody who wants to purchase the book, where can they get the book at? And I'm gonna put
Okay,
that
I
here.
have a website and you will find all my details on the website. It's
Okay. Mhm.
www.theshowmustgoonbook.co.za. The book is also available on Amazon as well.
Okay. So you said www. The show must go on book
Book.co.za.
dot co dot
Z-A.
sa.
Z-A.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Yeah, I'll be ordering your book today. I meant to order it last week, but then you know how we are. We get a little
Yes.
crazy. So we have about three more questions because we want to be
Mhm.
respectful of your time, and
That's
I know
fine.
you have
Yes.
things that you have to do and things that you want to do for the day. So I have three questions for your last three questions, and I love to ask these questions because I think it shows the type of person that you really are. So my first question is, what is your fight song?
As in a real fight song.
Like a song that gets you up and moving.
Yeah. The song that really became my fight song was The Goodness of God by
Mm,
Dante Bowe. And, he sings a song about God's goodness and his faithfulness. And, sometimes when life's challenges show up, we look at our lives now in real time. But when we look back in retrospect at our lives, we really do see the faithfulness of God showing up in many areas of our lives. And what I understand, the song reminds me of, though our circumstances change, God remains unchanged.
mm,
His will for our lives doesn't change. His purpose remains unchanged. His purpose that he serves in our lives remain unchanged. And you know what? For me, it just makes me think. Every breath I have, I want to use it to just help others, to impact others,
right,
to just
right.
make a difference, a small
Yeah,
difference, and then I know I lived beyond lupus.
yeah,
My purpose
absolutely.
did not stop there when I was
Mhm.
diagnosed. Yeah,
Right, right.
and I also
It just was
find,
adapted and changed, right?
yes, yeah, you just adapt and try and move on. And yes, you have obstacles along the way, but you move past that. For me, it was always, when I listen to the song, I just say, what, I never want to lie on my deathbed one day and, just think I should have, would have, or could have.
Right.
I want to know that I tried. I did everything I could do, and just lived a good life and just leave a legacy behind.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Which,
I love it.
yeah,
I love it. I love it. What quote keeps you motivated?
with my faith, I often use the quote, "When God shows up, He shows off."
I love it.
Because sometimes you go through those moments where He's completely silent and you wonder if He's even there. And then when He does show up, then He wows you with everything He does for you. And
Yes.
that's absolutely true about God. I can honestly say that. With lupus, the quote I live by is, "The show must go on."
There you
And
go.
as cliche as that sounds, that's
Right.
exactly what happens. We show up every day in every area of our lives. And because we show up, half the battle is won.
Right. Right.
If we don't show up, we're never going to be able to move past this. So, and you know what? I just feel like the enemy is just terrified of men and women who show up regardless of what they're facing.
Right. In spite of it all,
Yeah,
just keep showing up, keep fighting.
yeah.
Uh,
To not be defeated by what you're facing.
right. And that leads me to my last question. And my last question, you have kind of put a whole list of things down for me. And that is, what advice would you give lupus warriors? What 3 pieces of advice do you think that a lupus warrior needs to take with them from this whole conversation?
I would say, you know what, motivate yourself,
Mm,
encourage yourself, just be your own cheerleader. And that means to celebrate every single victory. To others, it might seem small, it might seem insignificant, but it's major, it's significant to us
mm,
because just to show up for life every day, just celebrate every little accomplishment. It doesn't mean just writing a book or doing things like that. It's just getting up from a flare, trying to move past our hospitalization, making the
right.
most of life. I would say to build a mindset that is unshaken. you
Mm,
know there are times when you have setbacks, but your comeback should be greater.
mm,
Try to achieve that. And I said, just because you had a bad day does not negate the fact that you are not a warrior.
right, right,
Only you can give up the fight, no one else. Just keep your faith, keep on fighting, and remember, if you're still alive, God's not done with you. You still have a
right,
purpose.
right.
Yeah.
That is true. That is true. I'm typing everything that you said because I want people to be able to see this and read it, later on. It's
Yes.
so important. I mean, just like you said, your setbacks, but your comeback will be greater. And,
Yes.
it's so important to understand that in yourself and understand that in your fight.
Yes. Definitely.
Is there anything else that you want to leave us with? Any other words of encouragement or anything that you want else to say?
I just want to say, just keep on fighting. I know there's moments when you don't feel like it, because I go through that as well. I go through days when I just feel like, what's the point? This pain can't get worse, or nothing worse can happen to me. But you know what? I think we all have a reason to live. So I just feel, just keep on fighting, keep on living your best life every day. Just do
Awesome.
the best you can, and when you get there, just don't look back and say, there's something I should have done,
Right.
because nothing stops you from doing anything that you set your mind to. So
Absolutely.
that's my wish for every lupus sufferer out there, to just find your new purpose.
Yeah.
Don't just lay down and let lupus defeat you.
Right. Oh, awesome. I love that. You hear me typing, right? I love it. I want to thank you so much for coming on. I so enjoyed your story. I enjoyed your nuggets of empowerment and encouragement and inspiration. You are just an amazing person. Your spirit is so sweet, and I'm so happy to be in contact with you.
Thank you. It's so great to meet you. It's so great that you would invite me onto this platform. I'm really honored. Thank
Oh,
you
I'm
and
so
humbled.
happy. Thank you so much, Sagree. And I'll be in
Thank you.
touch because I'll be ordering my book and then I want to talk to you some
Yes,
more.
definitely.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Well,
Thank
you're
you everybody
welcome.
for coming
Thank you.
on and listening to Sagree's story. It an amazing story with an amazing woman. And I want to thank you all for tuning in to In the Loop Lupus Live. And I hope that you all have garnered something from this. We will replay this later on tonight, and it will be on Facebook, our website, as well as our YouTube and Instagram. All right. Thank you, Sagree. I so appreciate
Thank
you.
you, Raquel.
And
You're
thank you,
welcome.
everybody, for coming on. All right,
Oh,
guys. You all have a great day. Have a great evening.
thank you. Good day to you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
How awesome. How awesome. How awesome. I think the last thing I'm going to say is what Sagree said was find your new purpose. Find it. Find it, and don't just sit around letting lupus take advantage of you. Find that purpose and do it. Thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with us for about an hour in the middle of the day. I'll be back about another hour or so after I get some lunch to do the midweek refuel. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I so appreciate Sagree coming on. And just remember to go to the website that I put in the chat to make sure that you pick up her book and really support her. We want to support each lupus warrior as we are struggling with lupus and beating lupus and defeating lupus day to day. Sometimes those reads really help us to heal. So don't forget to go out and get that for yourself and for a friend. All right. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I will talk to you soon with the midweek refuel. Bye-bye. Thank you.